Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from YourBlackWorld.com, and this week we saw on Your Black World and a lot of other websites that Rick Ross, Boss, the big fat man that likes to rap a lot, he is now being threatened by the Gangster Disciples. There's some sort of very strange extortion thing going on where they basically have told him that if he doesn't cut a check, if he doesn't send them money, that they're gonna do something to him, kill him or whatever. I don't know what they're gonna do, but it's kind of escalated, and I'm personally concerned because when you talk about the GDs out of Chicago, when you talk about all the violence in Chicago, it's very possible that something could come out of this that could be very negative. So really, to kind of get an inside scoop on this, I want to talk to my personal hip-hopologist, Vigilante out of Kansas City. He is one of our editors at ReasonForRhymes.com. I got him on the line. How you doing today, Vigilante?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, boy?
Doing good, man. Doing good. So what's the deal with Rick Ross and the GDs and all this stuff about black men trying to kill each other over nonsense? What's up with that?
Well, I guess allegedly, some of the GDs, I think when I first started to get a whim of it, it was when the Alabama crew was saying that Rick Ross owed some money. Is some to the fact of, it started off thinking that he had used them for some work or something. That's what I thought. And then as it started to escalate with other, like North Carolina participated in it and other people, I think it is stemming to a botched deal or the symbolism that he's representing, you know, on pictures and stuff. And I think the GDs took offense to that. So it started from that. Then it started to get a life of its own. You see different people, you know, gangs representing saying he need to cut that check. And it went from there. And when I first did the story, I was thinking, okay, maybe this will blow over. Then you saw another state doing it. You saw other people doing it. It was just showing that from state to state that the GDs are united against Rick Ross. And then, of course, everybody would make their threats. The next thing you see is a song talking about Rick Ross need to pay what he owed. So it went from there. So I'm thinking, wow. And then, first you take this lightly, but now I don't think it's something that you can take lightly.
So it sounds like this is serious, that this is not something that he can ignore. He actually canceled some concerts over this, right?
He did. He had to shut down it. Now he's, spinning it and saying that it was because of a manager that didn't know his place, was making decisions about him, and he wanted to show the manager that he's still the boss. That's what he's saying. But threats, and the threats are real, because there's a real people threatening his life. I think it's the latter. But, when you portray these type of images, you got to come off like something. But to me, I hope cooler head prevail. But, he's saying that he's the boss and he's not worried about it. But he did cancel the rest of that tour. So to me, it had some effect on Ross with the threats. You can't tell me. It's just ironically the manager did this, and that's the reason. He say, he was saying in one of the shows that we was on in Florida that he chilled out. He walked in Chicago and had his stuff on, and you can check my Instagram. I'm a boss. I wouldn't worry about now. He talking about how much he had on. Nobody touched him. So you get into these childish things like that, and to me, it stirs up more trouble.
Right. I think it does too, because you kind of, when you get to talking like that, you're kind of daring the other side to do something. And people that don't have, my father told me a long time ago, he said, if you got a lot to lose, you really don't want to be messing with people who have nothing to lose, because they can build their whole reputation by taking you down. So another thing that disturbs me about this is you and I both were there during the whole Biggie Tupac thing, and how that escalated out of control and actually turned into violence. Also, we're both familiar with Chi-Town. You lived there for a few years. I spent a lot of time there myself. And we know that a lot of this violence, that this is not just, studio gangsterism. This is stuff that can actually spill over into real violence, as you saw with Lil JoJo getting killed right after the Chief Keef diss. So do you think that there's a possibility that this could actually escalate into something very real?
I think so. I think because you basically it's a let me say it like this. It's a nut check time. You want to Rick Ross have a lot of money to gain by being the boss that he portrays himself to be, but he got to understand that the GDs are for real. This is no joking matter. There's nothing to play with unless he's talking. He say he's the boss, so he's allegedly. I think he's allegedly thinking in his mindset that he's talking to somebody maybe that's over those other guys' head that he ain't worried about it, because he made some mention of talking to real boss and boss moves in silence. So he's making sort of laid back type of threats too. So I think that if this don't stop, the bosses can sit at the table, boys, as we know, but that don't mean that they soldiers will.
Wow.
Just because you tell somebody to stand down, that don't mean that you can control everybody in the flock.
Right. That's interesting.
So
that's really interesting.
yeah.
I'll tell you what's interesting to me also about this, man, is, Rick Ross, we know that that's not his real name. He took that name from Freeway Ricky Ross, a notorious drug dealer out of Los Angeles who has actually reformed himself since that time. He actually admits that a lot of the dope dealing he did in the 80s was very destructive to his community, and he spent a lot of time trying to make amends. And it's very ironic that this is going down, because right when you sent me a note about what was going on with Rick Ross, believe it or not, I actually got an email from Freeway Ricky Ross. And Freeway Ricky Ross, he emails me about once a month, usually to talk about something that's going on with what he's working on. And I know for a fact that he's very upset over the fact that Rick Ross is going around using his name and using the reputation that came with that name in order to make money, in order to portray himself to be this gangster boss, whatever he wants people to think he is. And I think that it really kind of leads us to a point where we're having to sort of wonder, okay, what is hip-hop? Is hip-hop supposed to be something that is just a fantasy, that's just like a role in a movie? Or is it supposed to be something where you have to be authentic and keep it real? And if you have to be authentic, then it almost sounds like Rick Ross, his chickens are coming home to roost. Because you're not a boss, you're not a dope dealer, you're not a gangbanger, you're none of these things, but you're portraying yourself to be this way, which leads you to attract people who also engage in that lifestyle in a legitimate way. And as my friend said to me a long time ago, she said, if all you do is sing about roses, eventually somebody gonna bring you some flowers. And so that's kind of what Rick Ross is dealing with. You out here, you're elevating and glorifying this lifestyle, and the guys who are in that lifestyle are looking at you and saying, you're not even real, so we're going to put you to the test. I mean, what is your thought on all of that? And what is your thought about Rick Ross kind of as an artist, and kind of, because you're an artist as well, and a very good one.
Yeah.
So what is your thought about, that balance between authenticity versus fantasy, and where does Rick Ross stand in that, and how does he even deal with this?
Speaking of Chi-Town, let's take it from the song that Common came out with years ago, and it kind of preludes to where we at, in a sense, on the song he had called I Used to Love Her, talking about hip-hop, how it started to change into something else. Now you got an element, gangster rap and, different stories like that in there. And you get people that really did live their life, you get people that didn't live their life, But with Rick Ross, when you put these people inside of the core of hip-hop, which is dominating hip-hop now, you're going to get imitators. You're going to get different people that want to do something for a name. And then the bosses, the real bosses that control the industry, push that. They cheerlead that stuff, that type of music, because they don't care, because it brings them money. But they don't care about the lives that are lost by those decisions to book these guys and this type of thing like that. Everybody got a right to free enterprise. But as for Rick Ross, taking that name and portraying that, I know they're going to court for that. I think that he should change his name. Honestly, I think he should change his name. I think that has nothing to do with him. Rick Rose is also what he calls himself too. I think he should change his name. I think that if the real Rick Ross is trying to do things to pay what he owes, so to speak, then he should. And I think that he should change that name, because that's not Rick Ross. That's not him. And I think that these guys get so caught up with the money. See, that's what happened. That's the setup, boys. The corporation pay these guys, so they got millions, and then they start thinking that they're untouchable. You know what I'm saying? They start having that Goliath, mindset, but there's always a David with a rock slingshot ready to shoot at you. And that's what the GDs did. You know, whatever happened with that, they're showing that they're united in this thing, and he got to be careful when you fall. One thing I knew, I never did gang banging, but I knew not to false flag. You know, I knew not to represent something that I wasn't about. And I grew up around the GDs. You know what I'm saying? The area I stayed in, the south side Chicago. You know what I'm saying? So I know about that, but you never fake the funk. You never. So if you're doing that, then you do have to at least sit at the table. I'm hoping somebody intervene. Somebody that's higher up in the games intervene with Rick Ross and tell him to shut up, because really, I think, boys, if he don't shut up and he keep talking reckless like that, by default, somebody going to have to prove to him that they ain't playing. And I don't want that to happen. I think he's a great artist. I think he's real good lyrically. I think he got his music, his sound is dope. But it does not matter if you're not, around to continue being an artist. Keep it rap. That's the term they use a lot, boys, is keep it rap. Keep it rap. Keep it rap, man. Do your job. Sing your song. Put the fantasy in there. Rap has always been fantasy. And then about time, NWA them came around, it was about street life music, real music. Like, even though we can say that Grandmaster Flash, the message was real street life music. So it's been around for a long time talking that real stuff. Ice-T had a song called Killers way back in the days. You know what I'm saying? Schoolie D, one of the original gangster rappers. So we have that, but it was music though. Everybody knew how to separate. Right now, boys, the line is gray. And when you have something that's gray, when you can't tell it's black and white, you got a problem.
Well, one of Rick Ross's most famous songs has the chorus "Tupac Back," and it's funny that the guy who's singing "Tupac Back" and happens to look like B.I.G. might end up resurrecting a part of hip hop history that was probably one of the darkest moments in all of hip hop, was the death of Biggie and Tupac. So we don't want that to happen, and so maybe Rick Ross need to go back to doing country music or something, because this hip hop thing ain't gonna, it looks like it's getting a little bit messy. Well, I want to say thank you very much, Vigilante, for spending this time to talk to me. Thank you so much.
No problem, my brother.
All right, and thank you all for checking us out. And this is Vigilante Roger Suggs out of Kansas City. He's a great artist and an activist. He's also one of our lead contributors at ReasonForRhymes.com, and he is Vigilante, the hip-hopologist, in case you want to look his stuff up. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.